Microsoft is changing the way it nags you to upgrade. Get better breaking news on Twitter, and Facebook is definitely not using your location to suggest friends, we think. All that and a whole lot more coming up on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1544, recorded Tuesday, June 28th, 2016. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Zerto, virtual replication and disaster recovery technology that gives you the confidence to keep your business moving no matter what comes your way. Zerto empowers you to protect and recover your IT assets, move to the cloud, and know you're ready for anything. Get a free readiness assessment for your data center at confidencecio.com. And Atlassian. Unleash your team's potential with collaborative software tools like HipChat and Jira, which will enable you to work and communicate better together. Visit Atlassian.com to learn more. And ZipRecruiter. Are you hiring? With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post to more than 100 job sites, including social networks, all with a single click. Screen, rate, and hire the right candidates fast. Try ZipRecruiter with a free 4-day trial now at ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. Hello and welcome to Tech News Today, the show where we talk about some of the biggest tech news stories, the ones that we like and the ones that we think you will like, with some people who are passionate about technology. I'm Megan Morrone. Jason Howell is out this week, but joining me today is Scott Johnson from the Frog Pants Network. Welcome, Scott.
Hello. It's nice to be here, Megan. Always fun to hang out with you. I miss him when Jason's not here, but always good to hang out.
It is. And you were just saying I said that we talked about VR extensively for the last 2 days. So You weren't allowed to talk about it, but you said you were setting up your Vive and you have a bit of a horror or a success story to tell us. So
it's a really weird, probably very specific to me problem. And so without talking too much about VR, I will say this. I did receive my Vive. I got it all set up. And for the most part, first couple of days, things went pretty well. And I would occasionally have some weird drift and some problems. It turns out I have a tip for the listening audience today about what not to have when you have a Vive and you're trying to set up room scale. The two sensors tend to look both up and down. They're sort of a spread of view where they're shooting lasers all over your room to sort of make sure that your room scale is okay, and they're tracking your controllers and your headset. And if you've got mirrors in the room or other reflective surfaces, this can interfere with what the Vive sees and how it reports back what it's seeing. This was nothing new. A lot of people had reported this. I had no mirrors anywhere, so I couldn't figure out for the life of me what was going on. And it turns out, and you can't really see it in this video, but I have a corrugated ceiling made out of tin that is totally reflective. And as it happens, when I use the Vive, and it takes about 10 minutes for this to happen, things start bouncing around in a way that I have to completely reset and go reconfigure. So I'm working on some like rigged up ways to deal with it. I've built little visors for the sensors that maybe they won't see the ceiling. Stopping short of putting something on the ceiling, but I just goes to show the lengths we'll go to get proper VR working, and I'm still not done. So wish me luck, everybody.
Yes, I was going to say, are there mirrors on your ceiling? And apparently there are mirrors on your ceiling. You didn't even know it.
That sounds so much weirder out of context, but
it does.
Rad ceilings. It's almost like a fancy restaurant in here or something, the way that we did it. And it was all a design aesthetic. It was on purpose. But I didn't know I was going to have VR that would need to worry about reflective surfaces. So back to the drawing board.
So your VR doesn't have its own room. It's also your podcasting room?
So it is for now. We've got a room, and I think I may have mentioned this last time I guested on the show. We've got a room that is exactly the size it would need to be a dedicated room. But we decided to set it up in here first and get it working. This is kind of where all the gaming stuff is anyway. Where all my streaming stuff is. So it's a bit of a pain to move it over there and get all that going. But at this rate, if this continues to be a problem, we may end up there sooner than later.
All right. Well, was it where you were doing your Xbox Fitness?
Well, no. As it turns out, very few of us were doing Xbox Fitness.
Well, good thing. You wouldn't know that by the comments online. Apparently, there are a lot of people very upset that Microsoft is shutting down Xbox Fitness. According to a product sunset announcement that they posted on their blog, the feature debuted with Xbox One in 2013, allowed people to pay to download workouts. As of yesterday, no one will ever be able to purchase workout content anymore on Xbox Fitness. And as of July 1st, 2017, you will no longer be able to access content on Xbox Fitness, even the content that you purchased with real money. So a lot of people are upset about this. I was a little bit upset about the poorly worded blog entry, even though I don't even have a Xbox One. It kind of showed just how little they cared. They said, given the service relies on providing you with new and exciting content regularly, Microsoft has given much consideration to the reality, updating the service regularly in order to sustain it. There's missing a word there, and it makes no sense. And basically they're saying, you weren't using it, so we're getting rid of it.
Yeah. I mean, I understand things going end of life. I understand things becoming, I don't know, a feature that goes away because people aren't using it. They certainly have metrics and data on who's using what over there at Microsoft. But part of this, too, is on Microsoft's decision to not support and maintain support for Kinect, because everything about Xbox Fitness had to do with Kinect. Not entirely, but their motion tracker data, and there were other third-party applications and games that would feed into this ecosystem of the fitness data. But the Kinect was sort of the key point of all of this. And they just stopped caring about the Kinect. We all kind of stopped caring about the Kinect. And part of the reason a lot of us stopped caring about it is because it never really worked the way they said it was going to work. All of that being said, it's only really sad from my perspective that real money was spent on this, and now they're just deprecating it out of existence in the kind of timeline that is normally a little too short for spending money and then having it go obsolete. So if this was in another 5 years, I don't think anybody would have batted an eye. But when this happens within 3 years of the launch of the Xbox One, and at one time mandatory Kinect, at a very different time for Microsoft, with a very different change happening in the Xbox team, I guess I'm not that surprised about all of that, but it does stink for people who spent real money on this thing.
Exactly. I think we're not really used to paying for a lot of content anymore that we own. We stream things. And so when you say, okay, I'm going to spend $100 or $60 or whatever it is on some workout videos, you expect to own them. You expect that they're yours. You wouldn't expect with Spotify or Apple Music to, own the music that you're just streaming. That's understood. You're paying a different price for it. But it seems, it's a small group of people, but it seems unfortunate. I think they should give everyone a Microsoft band. Don't you think? That paid for content?
It's actually pretty good. I actually like the band, but I never feel motivated to buy it with real money. For some reason, I just feel like there's a million choices for me for my fitness stuff, and my phone kind of does everything I need it to do for fitness. So, but I would love one, and maybe that'd be a good way to compensate. They should compensate in some way, though, some equivalency. It's funny because it's the same company who made a big turnaround in the last year where they said, look, we are going back to the well of backwards compatibility, and we're going to make as many backwards compatible games as we can out of your previous 360 library. We're going to make deals with third parties where those deals have to be made to make this work. And anything we publish first party and in our any channels, we're going to bring those forward. If you already owned Geometry Wars, you now own it, and it runs, and it's great, and it's backwards compatible. Such a great effort, and such a gamer-minded effort in that direction. But the fitness thing, I guess, if only 5 people are using it, perhaps that's how they justified it. But it's a complete opposite sort of attitude or approach to that side of things. And again, while I'm not surprised, and I haven't used any of those features for a very long time, I feel bad for anybody who spent money on that.
Me too. Well, we have some other Microsoft news. Last month, the company dropped its appeal and paid a California woman $10,000 after she sued Microsoft for lost wages and the cost of the computer when she claimed Windows 10 automatically installed. Well, the Redmond giant says they deny any wrongdoing on their part. They took the money, and today they gave her the money, and today they announced a change to the notification of a pending Windows 10 upgrade. Mary Jo Foley from ZDNet says the newer, clearer dialog box will start rolling out this week. This was another weird one. Apparently, recent behavior in the Windows 10 update is if you clicked that X, it would install instead of getting rid of the window, which is what we were used to in the past. I think this is the upcoming window that we're looking at here, what they're going to change it to. But that is so weird. I mean, that is typical spyware behavior. Click the X to get the malware or Windows 10. What do you think about this?
That is super lame that was a thing that could happen at all. I think they're lucky that it only was $10 or $10,000 in damages, which to them is absolutely nothing. Satya Nadella could sneeze and more money would be spent on that sneeze than would cost them to do this. So I don't think it's all that big a deal to them. I'm not 1,000% sure that she, I guess let me put it this way. I have a few PCs. They all asked me to do Windows 10 updates, and then I only had to do it on the ones I chose to. So I'm not sure how that's happening for her or others who may claim this. But the entire thing does smack of, hey, Microsoft and other companies paying attention. Here's a reminder. Make this stuff as customer-facing as possible. Make it so opting out is easy. Don't turn on things by default that should be opt-in solutions. Those are other problems with Windows 10, certainly in the early days, of opting you into everything and you not really knowing you were opted into all this data sharing and then finding out later that you were. I would rather check boxes than uncheck them. These kinds of, these kinds of ideas are better for customers. And I really wish that they had done a little better on the front end for this, and you probably wouldn't have this PR problem. It's not a money problem. 10K is nothing. You got lucky on that. But it is definitely a PR problem where it feels like you're forcing, your will on users.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't want to judge. And when I say that, it usually means I'm about to judge someone. But she said she didn't even know what Windows 10 was. And that's why Microsoft wants to automatically install these things on people's computers, because they're not paying attention. They don't know what they need. Their computers are out of date. And so it's a sad state, because what do? I mean, most people that I've talked to that run Windows 10 really like it. Yeah. But people don't like to be forced to do something. I mean, she says that it was, she probably had an old computer because it slowed it down and that's how it explained the lost wages, because her computer didn't work. But
probably. I mean, I'm a big Windows 10 fan. In fact, I highly recommend when people can upgrade that they do and should. I like it more now than I did on launch day. I think there's a lot. They've made some tweaks here, and they're doing that again, and that's good. I think they should be commended on all of that. But if you're going to do it, you got to hurry, right? Because isn't this whole, like, everybody thinks Windows is just going to be free forever, but that's not true. Coming this July, starting next week or starting next month, I guess. It's no longer free, right?
Yeah, July 29th, I think, is and then you'll have to pay for it. So I'm sure then there'll be a whole load of people complaining about that. People who are maybe the same people complaining about how they didn't want it. Now they want it for free. But yeah, I think that they've gone about this probably the best they can. I mean, well, I hate to just pick on Microsoft, but it was a little weird that you clicked on the X and it would install instead of getting rid of the window. And in the future, you click on the X and it will get rid of the window temporarily, and then it will come back and nag you again.
Well, people expect certain behaviors out of certain UI decisions. If you click on an X, that means close something. That's something we've been taught since there were X's to close. So to change that behavior in one small case is a very odd thing. And all you're doing is feeding. It may even been a bug. It could have been a goof. It could have been somebody on the team that develops Windows that just, whoops, sorry guys, that wasn't supposed to happen. I don't know. But it sets this weird precedent, and it sets all these like conspiracy theorists on fire, thinking that, oh, that's how they get you. They're putting, never trust an X again in Windows. This will teach you. It's like, no, we should be consistent with those things the best we can. And then when you don't, come out and be as honest about it as you can. I'm not sure Microsoft has been in this case, but also just get Windows 10 if your computer's capable. It's fine. It's fine.
Well, I mean, there are people that have very special use cases where they can't upgrade to Windows 10. And I think those are the people that know specifically how not to upgrade to Windows 10. Those aren't the people saying, I don't even know what Windows 10 is. Those are people that already know how to not upgrade because they can't. They don't.
Well, I have a dentist who I sadly had to visit yesterday for various reasons. And they have this really cool system. I'm sure lots of dentists do, so this may not be new to people, but they take a bunch of very close sort of micro photos and video of your mouth and near the teeth that they're working on. And then they will 3D print or mill a tooth there on site to fit where they're putting it, like a crown or whatever. Super cool. And you get to watch him like mold it and mess around with it on screen. And it's this sort of 3D version of this tooth, and he's rotating around and so on. And I said, oh, I see you're just Windows 7 there. And he goes, oh yeah, don't even get me started. I said, what do you mean? He goes, one of the girls that works for him there didn't know that she shouldn't upgrade these boxes. And she upgraded one of these boxes. I guess it was, at the time, was Windows 8. And it completely made the software stop working. And we're not talking about any old software. We're talking about 80 grand worth of stuff. And So for a whole week or something, until they could figure out what to do, they weren't able to mill teeth or, keep things going. So absolutely, there are application-specific things going on. But then there's this whole group of us that are like, I hate Windows 10. Why? I don't know, because my uncle said on Facebook not to use it, and they don't really know why they don't want it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, my dentist doesn't have that fancy 3D tooth printing thing, but I think we've all been in the situation where at the dentist and all of a sudden it pops up that they need to install their security updates or something, just something that makes you feel really nervous about the whole situation you're in if they can't manage to install their security updates.
Reach over with the mouse and just go update. It's not our place, I guess.
All right. Well, Scott, are you ready for the spatial computing revolution?
Yes.
You are good. Twitter also is. According to the website Upload VR, the company has hired Alessandro Sabatelli, formerly of Apple, to head Twitter's new AR and VR division. I told you we wouldn't talk about VR, but I guess I can't get away. I can't get through an episode without talking about VR and AR. I guess this goes along with their acquisition of the best name company in the world, Magic Pony, last week. And then there were stickers yesterday. Then there's going to be VR tomorrow, and Twitter, I'm not sure how. Sabatelli formerly ran a company called Ixomoxi. Is that how you pronounce it? Ixomoxi?
Sure. Maybe you spelling it out is the way to pronounce it. I don't know. Crazy.
So what do you think Twitter's going to do with VR?
So this has to be a case of them saying, all right, people are going to embed 360-degree or 180-degree video where people are going to put that. They're going to embed this stuff straight into their Twitter feeds. And we want to be ready for people to play those embeds and see them for what they are, which is this 360-degree video, which is kind of a VR experience. I think that maybe this is way ahead of the game, but the idea that one day you and I will be using either headsets or phones or something with multi-angle camera setups that are letting us essentially periscope in 3 dimensions or in 360-degree video, or at least 180, and walk around a store or a mall or a whatever. The idea that could be something you could view live in both some sort of standard 2D or be able to put on your VR, your Gear VR from Samsung, or something more complicated at home and watch this person do what they're doing both live and on archive in actual VR is a pretty compelling idea. So to me, this feels like them getting way ahead of the game. But I don't know. The applications are really interesting. The video, for example, being shown with this or as part of this, they're showing all kinds of AR stuff. And I don't know how the AR thing is going to work between me and you. So if Megan's doing something cool on Twitter, I don't know how I'm benefiting from seeing you do that cool thing in AR. But the VR possibilities are there, and certainly in the way that people consume the content.
Yeah, the periscope connection, I hadn't thought of that. That makes sense. What I don't want is just to be walking around my life with AR goggles and my Twitter feed running alongside the screen of my life, because it's already doing that, and it's only on my phone, and it's too much.
Yeah. There's also a tendency in, I don't know. This is what we're going to see a glut of this, and I'm not too surprised about it. This is, imagine the bubble of 1999, 2000 with the web, with World Wide Web stuff going crazy and pets.com and all that. That all headed for a crash, and I don't know that we're headed for a crash, but you always end up seeing everybody throwing everything at the wall and seeing if it sticks. And I would say the modern equivalent of that we're just sort of getting over the hump of is everybody's got an app for every possible thing you can think of for our mobile phones. It's just apps, 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 apps. And now I feel like we're settling out of that a bit. They're not as crazy. They're not as out there. We're sort of figuring out use cases, and we're settling in on what those use cases are. VR is going to be the heyday of this. There's going to be an AR for that matter. There's going to be a million attempts to figure out how we're going to use this technology, and none of them are really sure yet. So what we'll end up with is a lot of experimentation, and YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and others have to at least prepare themselves or position themselves to be of interest during that craziness. If they don't, they'll get lost in the shuffle. At least I think that's what their fear is. So I think that's really what this boils down to. This is a what if move and less of a calculated, we know exactly what this is going to be used for move.
Well, let's talk about something old-fashioned now, books. Amazon's new page flip feature wants to give you the digital equivalent of putting your finger in a book to keep your place while you check another place in the book. Amazon calls these virtual fingers page pins. Tap a page pin and go back to the spot. Now, if you're a fan of reading books on a Kindle as opposed to the old-fashioned way in a book made from a tree, this might make you want to switch over to the Kindle as opposed to the tree. The update is coming to Kindles, the Kindle app, the Fire tablets, all starting today. I am not a Kindle user. I'm not a book reader I like the tree books. I like to hold something in my hand that feels like paper. Do you have a Kindle or do you prefer old-fashioned books like myself? I
have a Kindle, and I prefer it, I think. So there was a period of time where I was real curmudgeon about this and only wanted to read books made of paper. And I'm a huge comic book fan, and I like books. I'm a big nerd for fantasy and science fiction, and used to collect these things and have my shelves filled with them. And then I just finally got on board, and it was kind of late. But about 1.5 years to 2 years ago, I picked up a Kindle Paperwhite, and I have loved that thing ever since. And I read every day, way more than I used to read. I don't have books cluttering everything up. I am all in on this. It also provided a way for my mom to say the dumbest thing she ever said to me, which was, I downloaded 3 extra books on my Kindle today because now she has one, and she goes, and it feels heavier now. Here's the best part of that, though. Obviously, it doesn't feel heavier to her, but then some study came out asking how much does data weigh, or does data have a weight? And sure enough, even though it's imperceptible by human beings, there is a weight to data. So I couldn't, in all honesty, tell her she was 100% wrong. So anyway, there's that whole story. It's like the pee in the pee in the mattress or whatever, the old story, the old fairy tale. But my mom could seem to be able to tell if she had put an extra book on her Kindle. All that aside, real books are cool. I don't have a problem with anyone who likes to read that way, and audiobooks are cool. All that stuff is great. But a backlit Kindle in a hammock in the backyard under a tree, tell me there's not a better way to live your life.
Yeah, I know. I'm about to go to Mexico in about a week, and I have several hardcover books that are sitting on my bedside table, and I don't want to take all of them. So I am thinking of just, downloading the Kindle app. And it's a weight thing, too, because these 3 hardcover books do, in reality, weigh more than any Kindle. It's a point, and they'll get sandy, but then the Kindle will get sandy. It's very confusing. It's a Sophie's choice, really.
Well, I was worried about a sandy Kindle when I went to Mexico in March, and never ended up being really a problem. I was worried about humidity. Like, there's a lot of that sort of electronic nerd stuff that kicked in. I was like, well, what if? I was worried about airports, and are they weird in Mexico about Kindles, which is a dumb thing to worry about because everyone, travels with them. It ended up being great, and I ended up reading 2 books on that trip, and they would have been books that would have been too big to carry or would have been a pain, and I would have regretted having them, and they would have needed more space in my bag. So to me, it makes sense, and I think it is the future, whether we go in kicking or screaming or not. This is the paper and the binding of the era, and I have decided to go ahead and go all in.
Well, you pushed me closer to the door to the Kindle, or at least the Kindle. Maybe I'll start with the Kindle app on my iPhone or iPad, and then we'll see from there.
Sure.
A piece in the LA Times popped up in my Nuzzle today. I've been wanting to say that for a long time. Nuzzle, if you don't know, is an app that highlights the stories that are most popular with the people that you follow on Twitter. This story was about a dad who was perplexed by the fact that instead of playing house or superheroes, his kids pretend that they're vloggers on YouTube. They even go so far as reminding imaginary viewers to remember to subscribe as they're driving to soccer practice. The piece sort of unravels into your standard hand-wringing about how much screen time our kids have, blah, 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 has the obligatory quote from a psychologist about how kids don't play anymore. And maybe I'm not normal, but this is exactly the way I pretended as a child. I always pretended I was on television. Brady Bunch, Love Boat, that was my pretend. I don't think this is any different.
I think we could get really cynical about this, and it's easy to go, oh my gosh, what are we doing? Training our kids how to be YouTubers. That's a bad idea or whatever. I think that that's the wrong thinking. As a parent of kids, one of them 16, when they were little, when you're little in general, all of us, and like you just said, we like to, pretend, and not just pretend, but sometimes we like to aspire to the things we think we want to do. And for me, it was running around the house with a tape recorder, recording fake radio shows all day. No one was ever going to hear. I'm telling you, there is no difference between that which they all smiled and said, "Oh, how cute," than a little kid, a little boy or a little girl in front of a tablet pretending like they're, the next PewDiePie or whatever. It's just the TV of the day. It's the radio of the day. It's the thing of the day. And I have decided, as I've grown older as a parent and my kids have started to grow up, I don't want to be that guy that sees the next thing pop up and I go, back in my day. I don't even want to start with that, because back in my day, we were doing things my parents were surprised by. So I'm all in on this. I think this is a great idea, and it's totally fine. And I get it's easy to get cynical and go, "Oh, great, a whole new generation of YouTubers. That's what we need, like a hole in the head." No, they're aspiring to be a thing that's really cool, and we should encourage it, and I think it's totally fine.
Amen. Thank you. After the break, Twitter has a great feature to help you follow breaking news. So why are they hiding it from us? Alex Kantrowitz from BuzzFeed is here to explain. But first, let's take a minute to thank Zerto, the sponsor of this episode. Zerto is IT asset protection, disaster recovery, and cloud continuity for confident CIOs. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, go check their website. They have a 90-second video on their website with a very quick explainer. There are also illustrations. As is true in so many areas of our lives, it is all about confidence. Confidence can make or break businesses in today's IT world. It can mean the difference between hesitation and action, success or irrelevance. Zerto's cloud-based business continuity solutions give CIOs and IT pros the confidence to know their systems are ready for anything. With Zerto, you can recover from downtime, test new technology, and move to the cloud in a matter of clicks, all while maintaining business continuity. Zerto's virtual replication technology gives you the power to simplify your migration, switch to new infrastructures faster, and get quicker ROI. Know your data is protected by breakthrough hypervisor-based software that puts the power of continuous replication at your fingertips. Migrate to the cloud with no disruption with enterprise-class software that empowers you to seamlessly and safely move virtualized workloads between public, private, and hybrid clouds. Get complete, comprehensive data protection in one smart solution for BCDR across storage and hypervisors. Recover from any disruption with checkpoints every few seconds. Protect and recover files, VMs, and applications from any point in time. See for yourself how Zerto simplifies your data replication and disaster recovery. Plus, get a free readiness assessment for your data center at confidentcio.com. That's confidentcio.com. And we thank Zerto for their support. Twitter wants to be the place where we see news first. But if you're not following someone who's breaking that news or retweeting that news, you're not going to see that news. Twitter has a few tools that you can use to track breaking news better, but they're not that easy to find. Joining us to talk about this is Alex Kantrowitz, reporter at BuzzFeed. Welcome, Alex.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us about these features.
Well, I mean, Twitter has long been struggling to figure out how exactly to get people in touch with really the value of the platform, which is what's happening at the moment. They created a product called Moments, which it's a great fanfare. It was supposed to let people know what was happening at that moment, or what was it was supposed to bring forth the best of the platform. The only problem was that by the time you get a moment put together, it's old news already. Mm-hmm. So it's just been something that Twitter has struggled with a bit. Give them credit for making an attempt on fixing it. And there's a part of Moments, which I think we could talk about, which actually does fix the problem. The only issue with that is basically it's possible to dig up.
Yeah, so I mean, I had always thought Moments was kind of for the people that didn't use Twitter regularly. It was, for the normals that aren't trying to find the breaking news at all times. But tell us about this feature that's part of Moments.
Right. And you're right. I mean, the idea of Moments was to try to let you know what was going on if you were new to Twitter and you want to unlock the value of it. So it sort of maybe works for that. I dig into the collections of curated tweets once in a while, but there's a feature within Moments called the ephemeral follow or temporary follow, which allows you to follow an event. And basically what will happen is the Moments team will curate the best tweets about that event for you, so you can actually, without having to follow this whole slate of people who are queued into that event, something like Brexit or something like the congressional sit-in, the Moments team will curate and then pop those into your timeline. The event ends, and then you don't have to, stay in touch with any of those people. So that's great for power users too, as well as casual users, because, You don't have to adjust your following in order to be able to get the value of Twitter for an important event happening at that time.
But it also sounds like it does away with the problem of having, I mean, hashtags tried to do this, or hashtags tried to do this very thing. Where something's trending, you're all clicking a hashtag and seeing all of the posts that happen. But that is so interspersed by just people saying things that have no bearing on the situation or no actual interest to you. This seems like a way of circumventing that in a really positive way, for me anyway.
Oh, yeah, it's way, way better. I mean, hashtags are fine, but there's so much spam on hashtags. There's so much noise. And then to be able to have a curated group of like really the best tweets, like during Brexit, it was amazing. I follow a lot of tech people. I follow a lot of sports people. I follow nobody involved in British politics. That includes reporters, that includes politicians, the whole gamut. And I followed Twitter's temporary follow on Brexit. And I had some of the best political reporters in England, the politicians, informed outside observers, all tell me what was going on before I could find out what was happening anywhere else. So that to me is an unbelievable thing you can queue into on Twitter. And I think that, if I try to follow the hashtag, I'd be lost. But if I can follow with this curated temporary follow, that's an experience better than anywhere else on the internet.
So is it called temporary follow or ephemeral follow? Does it have a name, or it's just that's what we've taken?
Well, that's what's so confusing about it. I mean, it's amazing that and that's part of my story. It's amazing that Twitter doesn't put more effort into defining what this is and bringing it out in public and making sure that it's always available. It's available intermittently. It's accessible via a really poorly labeled follow button on the moment. Like, what does that tell you? It tells you nothing. Any person working on UX would explain that that's totally confounding. So I don't even know what the name is, if there's a name at all. And that's one of the things I'm kind of shrugging my shoulders at and saying, hey, this is pretty good. Maybe it's time to make it a little more prominent.
Seems like Twitter has a hard time sometimes realizing that they're the product. In other words, these are all tweaks to an existing platform, but these are products within that platform, and they would probably be better suited to push them as such. I feel like Google does a pretty good job of this. It's easy to see it in the hardware world. Somebody will push a new feature or a new part of hardware release and explain it in ways that make the most sense, or position it in a way that makes the most sense. I wish Twitter would see this and say, our newest product here at Twitter is temporary follows, and here's how it works, and here's why it works, and you can still iterate from there and improve it, but they do seem to sort of say, as a thing we worked on, try that. If you can figure it out, good luck to you. I feel like Snapchat does this too, so they're not the only ones, but I do wish they would focus more on that as well.
Well, I think that, my take on it is this. I think that the energy of the Moments team is totally in the wrong place. You see, they're putting a ton of effort in creating these curated collections of tweets about things that have happened already. Most of the things that you can find on Moments, you can read about in the New York Times and probably get a better understanding, or you can read about it in BuzzFeed, even better. But something that a publication can't replicate is being able to find out what's happening right now, or as Jack Dorsey likes to put it, 10 to 15 minutes before anyone else. And that's what you get with this temporary follow. So you have all these people on the team. I don't know how big the team is. They really haven't discussed the team at all. But you have all these people on the team that are working on creating these curated collections of stuff that's already happened. And instead, they could be working on building these temporary follows that really anyone, it's funny. I've seen so many folks that have commented on the story saying, there's two comments. One is, I use this all the time and I love it. Two is, I have no idea this existed. No one said, this is garbage. It helps everybody that use it get the value out of the platform. So I wonder, maybe one day they'll move the team from creating these stale collections onto creating something that's creating serious value for its users.
Well, you mentioned the Periscope sit-in, and that makes a lot of sense because that was who you wanted to watch, and probably you weren't following those people that were Periscoping. Is there any sense that they would ever, like Facebook, push that video? I know Facebook really wants to push the video in our algorithm. Does Twitter do that at all? Push video higher, or live video?
Yeah, it could do it within Moments, but it's really difficult. So that's it's really difficult for Twitter to do because it's really not algorithmic. There is an algorithmic element to it. You see that algorithm come in when you haven't been on the service for a while. But, in terms of Twitter pushing it, one thing they can do is sort of put that video up top and say you should see it. But that might piss off their users. And this could actually be a solution to it, right? If you followed the congressional sit-in, what you were pushed were people that were periscoping. You were pushed videos from the floor of Congress. You were pushed tweets from members of Congress and tweets from political insiders. And if you don't want to get all the tweets, when there's stuff that's not as newsworthy going on from these folks, and personally, I don't want to follow the entire Congress, and I don't want to follow every political reporter. And that's where the temporary follow really shines. Is there a
temporary unfollow?
I recommend the block if you're thinking about that.
Well, and muting does that too, right? Like you can say a month, a day, a week, or whatever. So they kind of have that now, except they do come back eventually, I suppose.
Well, you can mute someone permanently from the Twitter web client. I'm not sure about TweetDeck or anything like that. And frankly, I use it all the time. And it's one of my favorite features on Facebook too. I think I have like 1,400 friends on Facebook, and sorry everybody out there, but about 1,000 of you are muted. And I actually like Facebook now that everybody can't get into my newsfeed. It's wonderful.
It does make it sometimes a little more pleasant. But yeah, I mean, the temporary unfollow I think would be nice for, sometimes there's just people, I follow mostly tech people, and sometimes there's a particular topic that everyone's talking about, or, someone is live tweeting something that I am not at all interested in. So, just a temporary unfollow for a couple of days or something would be nice.
Yeah, that would be great.
To me, it'd be real simple if they just took the Twitter feed and said, all right, between these two people you follow, which is in your timeline in the order that they tweeted them, we're not curating it or anything, but in between them is a little thin light green bar that says interested in the congressional sit-in, and I can click that and get straight to this stuff. I don't see why that's a problem. I don't feel as a user that's intrusive. I don't think that annoys me. It isn't like pushing video to the top or pushing posts to the top and forcing me to see these posts. You're just kind of giving me a small reminder. Instagram does this pretty well. Other services do this. I don't know why that's been so hard for them to implement. Maybe they're afraid there'll be backlash, but sort of a small occasional reminder that something big's going on based on things I already follow and like. They're pretty good at telling me who I may want to follow. So they ought to be pretty good at telling me what kinds of things are breaking I might be interested in. And a little X on the end if I don't. Boop, gone. Won't see that one again. To me, that's as simple as can be. And I don't know why that hasn't been out for years.
I totally agree with you. And I think that, I can't stress enough how good this feature is. My article, basically pointed out the fact that it's a little bit buried, but it has the potential to be the best feature on Twitter, period. And I think they will eventually figure it out. To me, it's probably a process thing right now. They are working on investing time into these curations, and in Twitter, within Twitter, it takes a large lift to do anything. And I think that it's probably just something in the organization that needs to happen where they need to get the gears running, and that takes a while in that company. But I think they'll get it. And I agree with you. A small banner that lets you know when there's an event you can follow, and you can do it temporarily would be great. And more of these events to follow would be even better. So I look forward to seeing what they do.
Now that they finally got stickers up off the ground, which has allegedly taken decades, then this will be next. I'm just kidding. I don't know how long it has taken them to get stickers.
That's right. Can't undervalue stickers. Stickers are great.
It's true. Well, Alex, thank you so much for joining us. Alex Kantrowitz is a reporter at BuzzFeed. He's definitely worth following permanently, not temporarily or ephemerally, on Twitter, where he is at Kantrowitz. Thanks so much, Alex.
Thanks for having me.
Take care. So last week we talked about Pearl rear vision backup camera that some former Apple employees were creating as their first foray into aftermarket self-driving car tech. The camera cost $500, and we wondered if that was worth it. It's solar. A lot of you wrote in to say that was not worth it. It is not worth $500. Amy Green says, I bought my parents a retrofit backup camera in 2014. They're really happy with it. It costs quite a bit less. I haven't researched it since 2014, but this is the one I picked up. It's the Yada digital wireless backup camera for $129. Scott, did you see this story? I think it was last week. Right?
Yeah, and 500 is too much. I would agree with most of that feedback. We have a Honda that has this built in, and then we have another car that doesn't, and we were talking about how cool it would be if we had one on both. And I'm not, 500 is too much. 500 is a car payment and maybe then some, depending on your car. I would much rather spend a little bit less. So I would say either get that cheaper one or wait, because they will get cheaper. Or do something cool. There's probably some Arduino or Raspberry Pi idea somebody's working on that's super cool. So find some of those communities and see what the kind of homebrew maker market is doing for this sort of thing. But yeah, 500, a little steep.
Yeah, it must do something more than just what's on the market today, I hope. I mean, it streams to your iPhone, but a lot of people said, like, who wants that? You know, that things always don't work. You don't want it to just all of a sudden go off while you're looking at your backup camera. Like, you want that to work, and you don't want to always have to put your iPhone up on the dashboard to look at it. So there must be some secret in there somewhere, or maybe it's just for rich people. I don't know. After the break, is Facebook using your location to suggest friends? Kashmir Hill will give us the lowdown. But first, let's take a minute to thank Atlassian, the sponsor of this episode. We love various Atlassian programs: Bitbucket, Confluence, Jira, and HipChat. I especially love HipChat. We have a gajillion shows on this network. We're always trying to book different guests and make the shows as different as possible. And we found that we were just running over each other, booking the same guests. We tried to have meetings. We used spreadsheets and Google Docs, whiteboards. I had imagined all kinds of tools that would help us not book the same great guests for all of our shows. Then we started using HipChat. It was the perfect tool for all of our needs, and it could be the perfect tool for your needs too. Our engineering team uses Confluence to document equipment and work processes, and they use Jira for managing vendors and organizing our constantly growing pile of tasks, which would otherwise be overwhelming. Visit Atlassian.com to see how Jira, Confluence, HipChat, and Bitbucket give you and your team everything you need to organize, discuss, and complete shared work. Atlassian, helping teams everywhere team up to create what's next. That's Atlassian.com. If you are on Facebook, you've no doubt seen those suggestions of people that Facebook thinks you might want to friend. I have always assumed that that's because they're friends of my current Facebook friends, but that might not be all they're using. Kashmir Hill from Fusion has been on an epic journey to find out. Welcome, Kashmir.
Hey, Megan.
Thanks so much for coming on. So why did you first start delving into this story?
So last week, I met a man who said that he had been at a gathering for suicidal teens, and that the next morning when he opened Facebook, another parent who had been at the gathering was suggested to him as someone he might know. And the only way he said that Facebook could know that was that their smartphones were in the same room. And he looked at the location settings for Facebook, and they had access to his location. So I was pretty skeptical. I was like, that would be a massive privacy invasion if Facebook were using your location for friends, but I'll look into it. And I emailed Facebook, and they responded that location was a signal that they use for people you may know.
Wow. Were you surprised when they said that?
I was really surprised, just because there were so many obvious ways that could backfire. You could go to Alcoholics Anonymous and then the next day be told who the other people were who were there. You could go out to a bar and some, creepy guy is hitting on you. And then the next day, you don't give him any information, but then the next day he sends you a friend request. So yeah, there are just all these like obvious negative things that could happen. So I was really surprised. And I actually called Facebook again on Monday to say, like, you guys are really doing this? Like, it really seems like a lot can go wrong. Is there a way that users can turn this off? Do they need to turn off location? And they said, well, location is only one signal that goes into people you may know. And you would never have somebody suggested to you just based on location. And so I wrote my story. And then 6 hours later, Facebook emailed me and said, actually, there was some confusion here. And we don't use location to suggest people you may know.
So after 2 calls and oh no, people got really upset about that. We didn't mean it. Basically, that's what they were saying.
It was really strange. I've never had a company confirm a story to me like that and then basically immediately retract it. They said the reason was that Facebook did a test at the end of last year for 4 weeks where they were using location to rank friends people you may know. And that they ended the test and they don't do it anymore, but that some people within Facebook's communication team basically didn't realize that the test had ended. So it's very strange. And the thing is, like, ever since I published the story, I've just heard so many anecdotes from people who are convinced that Facebook is figuring out their locations. because, they'll recommend that they friend the secretary from their doctor's office or somebody that lives in their building or somebody they've seen at the coffee shop. And so I'm still trying to figure out how it is that those things are happening if Facebook isn't using location.
Well, so the fact that it was just a test, do you think that makes it any less egregious? They've gotten in trouble for doing tests before.
Yeah, they said it was a small test that only ran for 4 weeks with a small percentage of the Facebook population. And they're pretty careful in the press statement. They said that they used location to rank people you may know, so that they might have known that from other things, whether it's mutual friends or shared, education network, you went to the same school. The thing about people you may know is we don't actually know that well what goes into it. They're pretty vague in describing how it works. And they say that the algorithm is complex and that there's many factors. And so we don't know what all those factors are. But yeah, I was surprised that they use location. But I imagine that they may get some questions from Federal Trade Commission about exactly how this was working.
Well, the funny thing to me is, like, one of the things that they say with this is that it's only on a small percentage of the user base of Facebook. That is 900 to 1 billion people. That's like, if you say, we only did it on 10%, that's 100 million people. like in a way, that is the least comforting part of their response, is that this was a small percentage of people this was tested on, because when you're talking about that big of a base, things get a little bit weird. On the other hand, I kind of understand where the benefit of this might come from. This kind of data is interesting, but man, they've got to be a little more transparent about this stuff up front and let you know that you are being used in this way. And I don't mean that in the pejorative. Sometimes we want to get used for cool data, but this just feels like a slight step too far over that line to me.
Yeah, I mean, we as people who think about our privacy, we shouldn't be surprised that Facebook has this information, right? I mean, in their data collection policy, they say they collect device location, including specific geographic locations, such as through GPS, Bluetooth, or Wi-Fi signals. But what you're suggesting is it's possible that they're somehow sharing. They're not saying they're sharing our Wi-Fi signals, but they might be using that to then share information. It's complicated, right?
Well, I mean, the thing is, Facebook says they're not using location for people you may know, but they're very candid about the fact that they use location for other things. They recently announced that they're going to start tracking the stores that you go to, so they can tell advertisers if, the ads that you saw on Facebook led you to go to a store. And they allow advertisers to geo-target you. So there was a Alaskan senator targeted Department of Interior employees when she wanted them to approve funding for something that she wants to do. A pro-life group was targeting people at abortion clinics, trying to convince them not to get abortions using Facebook ads. So we do know that they use location for certain products. They're just saying they don't use it for people you may know.
It feels overwhelming, the amount of data that companies have about us. I mean, this reminds me of a couple weeks ago when someone was convinced that their Amazon Echo was listening to what they were saying, because then a Google search then came up for something that they had said in the room with the Amazon Echo. And to me, it's like, it's so hard to know where that stuff comes from. I mean, we give it out willingly on Facebook. We're making tons of searches. We have all these devices. It's very difficult to know where this information is coming from, because we give it out so often in so many places.
I do think that's the hardest part. There are all these black boxes. We don't know how algorithms operate. We don't know what information is going in, and they're getting better and better. And so it may be, a different way that Facebook is managing to connect you with the receptionist at your doctor's office. But it's just hard for us to figure out how it could be, because we just don't know what information goes into the box and how it gets analyzed in the box. We just see the results. And sometimes they're really cool and wondrous, and good things come of it. And then other times they're kind of creepy. So that is the world we live in.
Why can't they just warn us? Why can't they just go, hey, we got a bunch of data we're going to check out this week for blah, blah, blah. And then then we know at least. Like, let's use the doctor's office metaphor a little bit further. If I go to a doctor's office and they say, we need to take your blood, I'm like, okay, cool. What's that for? We're really not going to tell you what we're doing. Like, they wouldn't get away with that, right? Like, why can't Facebook? Why can't Google? Why can't all these companies just let us know? Even if we don't like it, at least say, yeah, we're planning on doing this. And then they can also test for reaction. Like, they get some important data out of reaction. And I know the internet's kind of a weird place and you're going to get reaction no matter what, but just let us know. I'd be fine with this if they told me about it. I really don't have a problem with this actual thing for me, but I can see how a lot of people would see it as a breach of their privacy.
I mean, I think a lot of times they collect data not knowing how they'll eventually use it. So the value of data only becomes obvious down the line. So I think we know that Facebook has location information about us, but we just didn't know it would be used this way, and maybe Facebook didn't know how they would use it. So yeah, I mean, it would be nice if we knew every single thing that they did with our data, but honestly, if they gave you that list, it would probably be as long as the terms and conditions when you accept an iOS update.
Yeah, I'm going to make a smaller request, just that when you call them next time and then call them again, that they tell you. That's all. That's all I'm asking now. That when reporters, as well known as you, call them and ask for this information, maybe they could get the right person on the phone to tell them, and not go back and say, actually, well. But thank you so much for writing this. I'm a big fan of all of your work. You were the editor, Kashmir Hill is the editor of Fusion's Real Future. Great videos, great stories. You're at Cash Hill on Twitter. Thanks so much for taking the time to come on.
Thanks for having me on, Megan.
Take care.
Bye.
TNT's fan of the day is Michael Rosner on Facebook. This was way back in April, and Michael said, I'm sorry that we missed it, Michael, but Michael was watching while working on his wheelchair project for the Baltimore Abilities Hackathon. So thank you for watching and posting on Facebook. You can show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup and post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, if we haven't scared you away from using Facebook from that last story. Use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT and we will find it. After the break, Google will help you Google those song lyrics that you don't know. But first, let's take a minute to thank ZipRecruiter, the sponsor of this episode. Posting jobs in one place isn't enough to find quality candidates. If you want to find the perfect hire, you need to post your job on all the top job sites. And with ZipRecruiter, now you can. What I like about ZipRecruiter is that it gives hiring managers the tools to find candidates wherever they are, instead of just picking and choosing from that same old bland group of old friends and sorority sisters. You need to dig deep, people. With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post to more than 100 job boards, including social media networks like Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, all with a single click. Just post once and watch your candidates roll into ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use interface. Search by skills, location, work experience, and more. ZipRecruiter's advanced matching technology delivers the most relevant candidates based on your criteria. ZipRecruiter offers optimized pages that look great on any screen, and their unique mobile apply process will find better visitors and applicants. Find candidates in any city or industry nationwide. No more juggling emails or calls to your office. You can add multiple users to your account. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by over 800,000 businesses and is trusted by hundreds of Fortune 500 companies. So whether you're hiring right this second or if you plan to hire in the near future, check out their blog for recruiting tips and hiring resources. Right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free by going to ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. Access millions of resumes on ZipRecruiter with thousands of new ones added daily. ZipRecruiter is the fastest way to hire great people. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/TNT, and we thank ZipRecruiter for their support of Tech News Today. So if you searched for song lyrics today on Google, you might have already been met with a pleasant surprise. The lyrics are right there in one of those Google cards instead of having to click to an ad-ridden website. The Daily Dot reports that as of yesterday, you can now search for terms and add the word lyrics, and you'll see them right there on the search page. The lyrics come from Google Play Music. I discovered that you can even type lyrics in that aren't the title of the song. I tried "Excuse Me While I Kiss the Sky" and I got "Purple Haze." I also tried "Excuse Me While I Kiss This Guy" plus lyrics. That does not work. So not the name of the song.
I thought I was the only one that did that. I would search for so there's the Cars song where I swear they say, "Don't let nobody pick your bum," but it's really "Don't let nobody No, I don't even know the real words. But that point is like I would search for that wrongly, and hopefully Google would give me the right answer.
Well, Google will give you the right answer, but that little card where it's just there instead of going to Lyrics World or whatever, where there's all the ads come at you, you don't have to do that anymore. Now they're there.
I want to say a huge plus 2 thumbs up for what Google's doing with all that kind of stuff, with medical things and just generally math questions or whatever. This idea of Google giving me a solution before I have to go hunt down the link to the solution is maybe my favorite new thing Google does. So I'm all for this.
Yeah, I love it. Math, equations, all of it. The time zone stuff. Yeah, it's very nice.
How do you think I found out in real time talking to you what 10% of a billion is? I had to make sure it wasn't 100,000 because in my head, that's what I was thinking. There was 100 million. And I did it because Google gave me the answer right there. So full disclosure.
I thought you were just extraordinarily good at math.
Wrong guy.
I tried to Google something ridiculous. I was trying to figure out when my daughter graduated from high school, and she was in 8th grade, and it didn't come up automatically. And what I learned from that was I need to do that. That's very simple math. That's 6 years from now, and I can do that. And it's just confusing with the 2 years of school. But when the answer is not there at Google, when it's an easy something and the answer is not at Google, that probably means you need to figure it out yourself. And
it'd be great if it said you got this instead of giving you the answer.
Right. That we should actually come up with an app or something that does that. Well, Scott, thank you so much. Scott Johnson is a podcaster and the founder of the Frog Pants Network. He's also a cartoonist, and he is funny on Twitter. You can follow him at frogpants.com or Scott Johnson on Twitter. Is there anything else that we missed that we need to talk about?
Oh, there's so much going on, and there's always a billion things happening. So thank you for both of those things. That'll send people to all the stuff I do. I do every week, every Wednesday, I actually do a guest spot with Tom Merritt on his show, The Daily Tech News Show. So if you like what you hear here and you want more tech news, we have a really good time on there. But for more details about everything I've got, every cookie jar I've got my hand in, frogpants.com or Scott Johnson on Twitter are the places to go.
Yeah, I like you on DTNS. It is Tom's birthday, so we should give a shout out to him. Today is his birthday. And he also sent me an email today, maybe because of the nice birthday message I left on Facebook, that he wanted me to come on a future Wednesday. And so you and I could talk about parenting technology stuff.
Oh, I'm so into that idea. He texted me about that earlier as a possibility. I don't even think he knows I'm on here today. Perfect timing, but I would love to do that. You and I both have some experience with kids of various ages, and I think that would be a heck of a discussion. So bring it on, I say.
Yes. Well, thank you for joining us. Take care for yourself, and I'll be talking to you either here or there at some time in the near future.
Thanks.
Tomorrow's guest will be Ian Thompson from The Register. TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be part of the show by emailing us at tnt@twit.tv or leaving us a short voicemail at 260-TNT show. You can also hit us up on Twitter. That's at Tech News Today TV. And many of you participated in our annual Twit audience survey at the beginning of this year. You provided helpful feedback on our programming and our advertising practices. Our partner, Podtrack Analytics, is currently asking avid podcast fans like yourself, including Twit listeners, to chime in and provide anonymous information about the trends and needs of podcast audiences like yourself. If you're interested in participating in Podtrack's audience panel, visit podtrack.com/panel for more information. And you can find all the ways to subscribe to our show at twit.tv/TNT. And if you want to tweet at me, I am at Megan Morrone. Thanks to Kara and Greg, and all the folks who help us to produce this show every single day. And thanks to you for talking tech with us. We'll see you on Monday.
High five yourself. High five yourself. Come on.